Happy Monday, everyone. It is leg day today. We are going to get going with a lower body strength and core workout today. Equipment-wise, we're using the Lunge. We're going to be incorporating our dumbbells, our loop bands, as well as my chair here and or your training bench, your ottoman, something along those lines. And of course, our mat, which is where we are going to go down. Come on down. To start off this session, we're going to lay on down on our back. I'm talking all the way down on our back, laying with our arms out, palms open, lifting up one leg, grabbing that knee with opposite hand, taking a big inhale, and then exhaling, pulling that knee all the way down, trying to get it as close to the floor as we can at this hour of the day. Then we'll bring it back up, place it down, switch to the other side. So again, inhaling, and then we'll exhale, cross. See if we can get close to the floor, but not forcing anything or making that happen if it doesn't feel like it wants to happen. We're doing 10 of these total. So maybe as we go through 10, which is 5 on each side, we might be able to get a little bit closer towards the floor. This one is great for opening up our low back, our mid back, our hips, especially after a weekend of maybe not doing so much of this stuff. So we're going through 10 of these. Again, 5 on each side. I want you to make sure that you're getting that breath between every rep. So resetting with an inhale and then exhaling as we cross over to the other side. 10 of them, and they feel so good at this hour of the day. Once we are done 10, we are standing right up off the floor. Hopefully you feel a little looser than when you started. We're going to bring ourselves to the very front of the mat, standing hip width apart and our feet, arms down by our sides. Stepping back into those lunges, sending both of the arms above the head. Counting these ones as well, going through 20 reps total. As we go through these, again, we're trying to keep the weight quite even in both feet, feeling a slight stretch in that hip of the leg that is being sent back behind us. And again, we want straight arms and both of them to be sent up above our head. So 20 reps, 10 on each side. As we finish up 20 of these, we have 10 more lunges after this. So get ready to lunge a little bit more. But rather than going up and down with the arms, we're going to take our arms and cross them like this, creating this tabletop. Stepping back into the lunge. When we get down here, we're going to turn in towards that knee, reset to the top, and then stand up. We'll do 10 of these total, 5 on each side. So really trying to separate these two movements, the lunge, the turn in, the reset, the stand up. The entire time, those arms are going to stay in this tabletop lifted up position. We don't want them falling down. Let's keep them up there. 10 total, 5 on each side. Another one to get that mid and low back warmed up, woken up. Because it is early. We are fresh from the weekend. So we'll go through 10 of those. As we finish those ones up, the next one is in a squat stance. We're going to widen up our feet a little wider than our hips, slight angle out in our toes. Arms go up and they stay up for our overhead squats. We'll go through 10 reps total. Again, trying to keep those arms up and straight above our head so that we never see our hands, we never see our arms because they are above our head. 10 total, trying to get down to 90 degrees. Unless you have a reason why you shouldn't be down there, which you know that yourself. 90 degrees is necessary on this one. So let's go through these ones, 10 of them, with the straight arms above our head. Once we're finished 10, we're going to stay in the squat stance. The next one, we go down and we're going to apply a bit of pressure at the bottom. Very similar to how we separated those lunges, we're going to separate the squat. We sit down, we press, we reset, and then we stand up. Arms can stay in front of us, bent at the elbows. 10 reps total. This one, we're going to feel a nice opening stretch through the inner thighs, the groin, opening that up in there through the hips, through our 10 reps total. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, next on the menu are some leg swings. So you're going to need some space around you so that you don't kick anything or anyone in your house. We're going to hold on so that we don't have to think about balance. Trying to keep this leg straight, although you might have a little bit of bend in the knee, which is okay. We don't want you to force a straight leg. Kicking that leg there and back is 1 in this forward-backward motion. We're doing 10 forward, backward, like so. 10 of them, and then same side, we're gonna turn and face the wall, again, holding on, and now we're gonna go side to side. Same count, there and back is counted as 1 rep, and we are doing 10. So that first one will feel much more through the front and back of the hip, whereas this side to side motion, we're again trying to tap into that stretching, opening feeling in the inner thigh. So we'll do this on both sides, of course. Back to the other leg, to this forward and backward. Kicking it, swinging it 10 times. And then again, we will turn and get that lateral kick going now, side to side. Same count, 10 of them. Opening up, this one's another one that always just feels nice to do. First thing in the morning, first thing in the week. So we'll get through these. 10 and 10. Okay. So we'll finish up those and then come on back down here onto the floor for the next one, the next 2 rather. We have a bridging situation on this next one. So we want to bend up our knees, hands can go down on the floor. We want to make sure our low back is squished into the floor. That is crucial on this one. We're going to drive the hips up to the very top of that hip bridge. So we feel our glutes working to keep the hips up. Then we're going to lift up one leg, reach 90 degrees at the knee and the hip, and then we'll put it back down. And then the other one comes up. We're getting some glute work, which we will feel right off the bat. And as we go through these, as well as some core stability activation, because you have to control your hips so that they don't fall and tilt. As we go through 20 reps is our number to be, 10 on each side. So we want to take our sweet time and almost think about stabilizing that hip before we lift up that opposite leg. And we're not going to even think about lifting our leg until we're at the very top of that hip bridge. So again, we should feel our butte, our glutes working the entire time from the beginning all through those hip walks until the very end when you're done 20 of them. Again, we have 2 exercises down here, so don't get too keen on standing up once you're finished. The next one is strictly about our core, although you'll probably, again, feel that core working in this one as well. Last one we're going to do down here is a dead bug. We're going to lift up our arms and our legs, take that palm, that opposite knee, and squeeze them together. Again, that is crucial that that's tight, as well as our low back into the floor needs to be tight. We're going to lower opposite arm and opposite leg. You can either keep the knee bent, like I am here, or if you would like, you can straighten it out. But again, it's very important that your low back stays down, fixed, squished into the floor, as well as this situation here needs to stay tight. So if I was to come through that screen, I wouldn't be able to pull your hand or your knee off of each other because you're fighting them together so much. We're doing 10 on this side, and then we're going to switch and do 10 on this side. And I'd like you to do that for me twice. So we'll do 10, 10, and then again, 10 and 10. And let me tell you, although I don't really need to, we're going to get our core real fired up and activated from this one. So you're going to feel all the stuff through your abs and your core. And we'll do that again 2 rounds. So 10, 10, 10, 10, and then should be feeling warmer than when we started. After that one there, we're going to stand up. We have 2 more to go through before we get you started on our first strength movements. This next one is, once again, about activation. It's about your glutes this time. So we had that nice core one that you're probably still finishing up right now. The next one we're going to do is our infamous hip-loaded step through. So this one is a very subtle looking movement, but it really feels, and again, that feeling really comes down to you being conscious of the way you're moving your body. So the first thing we're going to do is shift the weight so we're standing all of our weight onto one leg. We want a soft knee in that standing leg. Then we're going to hinge our hips back. Wherever that foot ends up, it ends up. We'll align our opposite arm and leg, and then we'll drive our hips forward and through, feeling that nice work happening in that standing leg as we hinge back and moving through the hips, and then we hinge forward. We're doing 15 of these on each side. So we're going to get 15 on this side. Little bit of balance involved, although we can touch the floor slightly in that front and that back position with that opposite foot. Although again, we want to keep all of the weight on this leg and on this hip so that we get all of that activation work through your back side, which again, you need to feel. So if you're not feeling it, we're gonna have to think about it a little bit more. Again, maybe put more weight in the hip, hinge a little bit more if you need to. 15 reps. So hopefully you are getting that going on at the end there. We do have one more exercise in this warm up here that we're gonna go through. Once we're finished both sides, of course, of that step through 15-15, we're gonna bring it on over to one side of our mat and work with our double side lunge. So this one, we get again a little activation work through the hips, but also again a bit of a dynamic stretch through that adductor. We wanna make sure as we step out into that side lunge that we're sending our hips back behind us. Then we're gonna use that leg to push ourselves up to the top. Arms and upper body can come in front of us to again promote us sticking it out behind us. We're going to do 10 of these total, 5 to each side, and a little coordination. Good morning, brain. 10 total. And then we shall be warm after this. We're gonna get you moving on our first 2 exercises that we are working through. So the good news is about these first 2 movements is that you don't really have to count them. I'm going to be sticking you guys on a timer. First one we are going to do are alternating skater squats. So it's been a minute. We have worked a lot on these in the past, and we are back to skater squat it out for this first round. We're going to be working with these guys where we lower ourselves down and then we pull ourselves up without any use of that back leg. Alternating ones. So I go right side and then I switch and I go left side. A little bit of balance involved here. We're going to talk all about these. You are going to have 60 seconds, my friends, to do this, okay? So don't get too keen on starting quite yet, as I just need to adjust my timer here. With this one, we're going to take a little bit of time in between, and then we'll need our loop bands close. These guys here, as we're going to be working with a banded side step variation. Again, on a timer, so no counting involved. Between these 2, we're going to have 20 seconds to just sort of get into the band and out of the band, really. That's all that time is for. And we are going to do 3 rounds total of this very fun stuff. Okay, so skater squats. Are you ready? Ready or not? We're going to start in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Nice, loud starting beat. So again, we want to send our hips back behind us. Arms can come in front of us, trying to not use that back leg at all. So we're strictly just relying upon that front leg to pull ourselves up. Now, right off the bat, if you're finding that these are too hard, a couple of options. First option is to try to lower yourself down and then use a slight bit of help on the way up, but to really work that negative phase, that lowering phase, as much as you can. Number one, so that you don't just fall on your kneecap, because obviously that is not a very good thing for your kneecap or, again, for that leg strength. Or, again, what you can do is grab yourself, I got my mom's nice yellow Easter-themed throw pillow here, which is going to essentially lift up the floor and make it so that I don't have to go as low, which is going to make this movement feel a lot more manageable. Rest, and we're going to band up. So we'll talk a bit more about that on the second set, but for now we're going to take this band, put it around our heels, and we want a medium to heavy strength band for this one. Come on over to one side of our mat, and we're working with this zigzag fashion side step. So I never want to allow my feet, my ankles to come closer than hip width. I'm stepping forward and backward in a zigzag fashion, which is going to, again, target some different parts of our hips, which we want, again, to keep tight. So the whole entire time we're trying to hinge the hips back, feel that tightness, that tension, and then we go forward, and then we step backward. No matter how much space you have, this is the pattern that we're going to follow. And again, you're on the timer. So don't worry about counting, okay? But what you do need to worry about is feeling the hips. Trying to not shift your body and walk too much like a penguin. We want to keep everything as still as possible. Brace your core so that we're not having too much sway in that upper body. 10 seconds left. Yes. Very nice work. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and unband. And here we go again. We're going back to that first one, the skater squats. So quite limited on rest. So we're definitely going to find that these next 2 rounds are going to feel a lot more challenging than that first one, which is part of the deal. So again, if you were really struggling with this one, we've talked about those options. The other thing, the last thing that I want to mention, is adding some counterweight. So for some people, everyone's different. Of course, all our bodies are different. Some people find that holding something in front of you here actually makes this feel a lot more manageable because, again, we have that sort of counterbalancing, which helps us stand up to the top. That being said, of course, it does add weight to the skater squat, so others might find that this makes it a lot more challenging. Just depends on, again, you, your body, what you're feeling. But you know what you need to do. 25 seconds left. And alternating, yes, right side, left side. Trying our best to not use that back leg. Unless, again, you're working on your negatives, your lowering ones, because you're still trying to get stronger on these, that's okay. 10 seconds left. So a couple more. Taking your time with it. And rest. There you go. Okay, so on to our second set of those banded side steps. So again, for those of us who don't have bands, ideally we want a loop band around our heels, but it's okay if you don't have one. We're going to do the same thing. Again, it's even more so important that you're making sure you're hinging the hips, you're tightening up your glutes, and again, we're avoiding too much of that side swaying. So we'll try to control that as much as possible. And yes, that makes it harder, which is maybe what I want for y'all. So we'll go through our second set and avoiding our feet coming any closer than hip width, because as soon as that band goes loose like this, we're losing tension on the hips. We're making it easier, and although it might kind of feel good, that's not what we're going for here. 30 seconds left. Here you go. Okay, so the entire time we are sticking it out, just as we practiced in the warm-up, through that step through those side lunges. Same feeling here. 15 seconds left. Oh yeah. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. And then we are done with skater squats and the side steps. 3, 2, 1, and woo. Okay, unband. Maybe a very quick sip of water because we are going right into it in about 10 seconds for our third and our final set of these ones, which is probably good news for most of us because these are pretty dang hard. All right, ready? Skater squats. Let's go. Going through that final set, seeing again if we can control this as much as possible. Trying to keep it even on both sides because we know that sometimes we have one side that is a lot harder than the other, a lot easier than the other. So we'll try our best to use that breath, use that exhale to pull ourselves out of that position. Last chance. 30 seconds left. There you go. Okay, so maybe 2 or 3 more reps on each side, and you will be there. So try to make them as strong as possible, just as strong as that first fresh set that we did, even though we are a lot more tired now. 10 seconds left. Maybe 1 more on each side. And taking your time with it. 3, 2, 1, and okay, so we have our last set of our banded zigzagging side steps. So we'll get into our band. Again, bring ourselves over to one side of our mat. Take a few deep breaths. Soft knees. Again, hinge the hips back so you feel that tension first before you start to step. Because if we're just kind of standing and kind of stepping side to side, we're not going to get this nearly as much as if we hinge back and we create that tension in our hips. And you know, we all know, we're always just trying to get the most out of these sessions. And so that's what you need to think about now, is that feeling in your hips. Although yes, it burns. It might not feel the best, but it will make you stronger. 30 seconds left. So this is going to be our final set. And then we're going to take a little rest after this, like real rest, not just switching rest. 15 seconds. There you go. So you're controlling that upper body. Breathing, not holding our breath. There you are. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. All right, my friends, nice work. So we are going to unband, grab some water, check it out, and get ourselves ready for the next part, which I'm going to start talking about right now, which is going to be our split squats. Did you think you were going to get away without these? Probably not. So split squats, we're going to be doing these with the rear foot elevated, ideally with weights in both of our hands. So I'm going to be using my 2 8-pound dumbbells here, holding one in each hand, with my back foot elevated with the toes down on that chair or bench or an ottoman, whatever you got going on. And we are going to be working with this split squat, going down to 90 degrees, standing all the way up, working with a nice high rep range of 15 on each side. So we're going to keep this tempo as normal as possible. For those of us who don't have a chair or a bench or a stair or a stool that we can put that back foot on, we can just use the floor. We want to make sure we're going down to 90 degrees. And again, 15 reps on each side. So when you're ready, and if you need to take, a couple more sips of water, a few more deep breaths, that's okay. But we're going to try to get going in this one on our first set. Again, down to 90 degrees, and then standing up. We want to follow 1, 2, 1, 2, which is our normal tempo, okay? We want to make sure we're not, going too slow or adding any sneaky pauses, because 15 reps is a lot of reps, and we're most likely going to feel quite challenged by this. So we'll get this first set done with those weights in our hands, 15 and 15. Of course, if you do want to make this harder on your next couple sets that you're going to go through, slowing down or pausing would be the answer to that. So again, you can either take more time lowering yourself down in each of those 15 reps, or you could lower down and hold for 1, 2 before you stand up to the top. But again, those things are not necessary because these are, again, probably pretty dang challenging with just doing them at our normal tempo. So let's get through our first set of 15, working again evenly on both sides. For those of us who dumbbell lifts, if we're working with bands instead of dumbbells, and we're gonna move that band underneath the foot, we know it, and then go through our set on both sides. Okay, so you'll do 15 over here, and then we'll switch and do 15 on the other side. Now, of course, we're gonna pair this. We have a nice superset going on. The nice thing about the second one is it's lower in the reps, but it's going to take us pretty much about the same time as those two sides together did. What we want is ideally to add those weights now onto the top of our hips. We're going to be working with a hip thrust with our upper back elevated on our chair or bench. So same rules apply. If you don't have this, we're just going to lay down on the floor. But ideally, we want this because it's going to help us increase our range of motion. So I have these weights here first. And then I'm going to lower myself down second, making sure those weights are fixed on my hips, holding one side with each hand. Upper back is on that chair, that bench. And then we're going to push up to the top and hold for 1, 2, 3 seconds every single rep. And we're doing 10 of them. So we want a 1, 2, 3 second active pause at the top, where we're actively squeezing and contracting our glutes and feeling all of that work happening back here, which again comes down to you being conscious with your mind to muscle connection of thinking about contracting your glutes and squeezing your butt for that 3 seconds. As a matter of fact, I don't want you to leave the top until you feel that squeeze and that contraction for 3 seconds. So if it takes you a little longer, especially on this first set, maybe you're going to end up holding it 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 seconds, that's okay, because we're only doing 10. We want to go up all the way, make sure we're at that top end range of motion, making sure that our ribs and pelvis are being slightly crunched together so that we're not flaring up our ribs. And then down until those knees start to kind of rock back, we want to stop and then push back up to the top. So again, we're doing 10 reps only, but all of those 10 are super important, okay? So again, very important that you're feeling that 3-second contraction in every single rep. Oh yeah, there you go. Now, once we're finished these ones, we are gonna rest a little bit. So don't jump right into your next set. We're gonna take about 30 to 45 seconds, which you probably will feel like you need. Your ass might be on fire, which is what we're going for in this superset here. So we'll take this time. And then the good news is, my friends, we have 2 more rounds total, okay? So again, we'll take the rest, grab some water, think about how good we're feeling back there. And then we will go into our second of 3 sets, all right? Which is, again, why I said that these are very important, that you're really feeling these ones and you're challenged by them. And again, we talked about on that first set of your split squats, if you did want to make it a bit harder, because we have 2 more rounds, we could either slow down our lowering, or we could sit down and hold, just kind of similar to what we did in the hip thrust, or you could just follow the normal tempo, because you probably most likely feel like these are really hard. But again, some of us are very limited on weights and might not even have weights, so we might need to think about those other things in order to feel challenged by 15. Because we should not be thinking about more than 15 reps. Okay, 15 is it. Actually, we should be struggling to get 15. Those 13, 14, 15th rep should be really dang hard, maybe even a little shaky. Okay, you're really gonna have to, again, exhale to get through them. That's what we're looking for here. That's why we're up in this high rep range. So we'll make sure that we are getting that in for ourselves on this set and on our next one, which is going to be our last one. 3 sets, woohoo. Let's do it. Okay, plugging us in. Oh yeah, split squats. Do they ever get easier? Yes, they do. But I am constantly trying to throw things at y'all to make them harder, which is why you're probably feeling the way you're feeling right now. But again, the more challenged you can make yourself on these 15 and 15, the better you're gonna feel next week when we maybe are dipping back down into a lower rep range. Maybe. We'll see next week. All right, so we'll get through this, both sides, and then we'll go into our second set of those hip thrusts, which again are very crucial that you're working with yourself to really challenge yourself on these, because it's really easy to just kind of go up and down, and even with a 3-second pause, and just kind of go through them and then get to the end and not really feel it that much, or maybe feel it a little bit, but know that you probably could feel it a lot more. Again, we're limited on weights, and this hip thrust is a really strong exercise. Like, I know for a fact that most of us, if not all of us watching this, could do this with hundreds of pounds, 100 or plus pounds on our hips. But we don't have that. So what we need to do instead is focus on that connection, mind to muscle connection, those pauses. So we're really getting that strong contraction through our glutes, because the glutes, your butt muscles, they are lazy ass muscles, literally. I mean, most of us, again, we're sitting on them, which put them in this kind of stretched out position. So then when we go to work them and we go through our hip thrust, sometimes they just don't really want to work. Number 1, that's why we did all that activation work in the beginning of the class. But number 2, that's why it's, again, very important that you are thinking about it every single rep, okay? No lazy reps or the lazy glutes. Okay, so we'll get through the second set. Hopefully you're feeling it back there. Whoop, whoop. If not, you have one more set, one more opportunity for yourself to get this going on. Then we'll make sure to take the rest, no matter how you feel, because we are working glutes on glutes. So split squats with that rear foot elevated and very butt focused. And then we have our hip thrusts, very similar focus. So we'll grab some water, enjoy the rest. because maybe there's not a lot in the next couple parts of the session today. Take this rest, take this time, and take those deep breaths. And then when we're feeling ready, in about 30 to 45 seconds, we're doing it again for our final and last set of these two, which is good news, because I know it's a hard combination. Very similar stuff going on. So we'll get through our final set in 15 and 15 of our split squats, trying to keep it even, especially on that second side, because you know the first side, usually so we get through it, a little bit of problem. I don't want to say no problem, it's gonna feel. But then we get to the second side, sometimes we want to just rush through it to get it over with. But especially because we're only doing 3 sets, we'll try our best to keep it as consistent to what you're doing right now on your first side as we approach that second side. All right, so lots of time. We have about 3, maybe even 4 minutes. So again, take your sweet time. If you do want to challenge yourself, you try again pausing or slowing down your final few reps or your final set on each side for this burner of a combination. There you go. And getting down to 90 degrees every single rep. There we go. Okay. So 15, 15. Again, we'll exhale out of the bottom because you are most likely going to need to do something to help you out on this last set. That might just be what it needs to be. Okay. And then we'll try to hustle in getting going on our final round of this hip thrust. Okay, so again, with or without the weights, you got 10 reps, 10 chances to really feel this in your backside. So we're going to push it up to the top and hold here. Do not leave until you feel that squeeze for 3 whole seconds, that burning feeling. And then we go down, we push right back up to the top and we hold 3 seconds. Again, maybe even a little bit longer if you need to on this last set, because you know that it's your last set, these two. It's going to take us more than halfway through our leg strength. We have 1 more part after this, and then it's core time, it's floor core time, and we are finished. Woo! Home stretch. Okay, so we'll finish up the hip thrust, 10 of them, and then we are going to move on to the last part. We have a nice little leg strength circuit coming up next, which is circuit style, which means we are limiting the rest. We have no rest in between these exercises. So we're going to talk about this first one, which is going to be a little combination move. It's our single leg deadlift to reverse lunge. So ideally what we want for this one here is to have the weight on one side. So I'm going to have both my dumbbells stacked up. So I'm holding them on one side here. We're working with a single leg deadlift all the way up to the top. And then we step back into a lunge all the way up to the top. That's 1. We're doing 6 of these on each side. So again, we deadlift, get that balance involved, come all the way up, and then we lunge. And then we pull ourselves up using that front leg, and that's 2. Again, we're doing 6 reps total. The deadlift plus the lunge equals 1. So when you're ready, we're going to start this off, if you haven't already. And same rules apply if you are using bands instead of dumbbells. We have that band underneath the foot. Same thing with the deadlift. And then the lunge and the count, okay? So we're doing 6 on this side, 6 on the other one. So this is another one that is very hip focused. We're gonna feel this a lot through the backs as well as the sides of our hips. Probably didn't need to tell you that though, because you're probably gonna feel that a lot there anyways. All right, so we'll get through this on both sides. And 6 and 6, it's kind of like a sneaky 12. Because we're counting both of those movements as 1. And then we have 2 other things that we are going to do with this one to top off this circuit. There you are. All right, so we'll get through this on both sides. As we are approaching the end of this little combination move, the next one we're going to do is a double leg straight leg deadlift. So it's essentially the first part of that little combo move we did, but we're doing it on 2 legs, which means no balance, separating the weights so we're holding one in each hand, parallel narrow feet sitting right underneath our hips, soft knees, and then we hinge the hips back. We're going to feel a stretch in the back of the legs. Then we pull our hips forward, trying to move just through the hips in that forward-backward motion. So we're pushing the hips back, feeling the stretch, and then we pull the hips forward. This one here is a hamstring focus. So we're going to feel that work happening in the back of the legs, a little bit through the glutes, or maybe even a lot left over from that first part there. We're doing 12 of these total. So we're going through 12 reps, trying to move strictly through the hips. If you're someone who has heavier dumbbells, not like me, I have my 8-pounders, we can always hold one dumbbell sideways if you're working with heavier dumbbells, if you find that the 2 are too heavy to go through this. If you're feeling any sort of tension in your lower back, you might want to just lighten it up a bit so that you're getting that work in the back of the legs. So 12 reps, my friends, very nice. Very nice. Then we have one more movement here, which is going to be a sumo stance front-loaded squat. So I'm going to pick up my weights now and load them up into this position, widen up the feet, and add that angle out in the toes, sitting down and pushing the knees out to the sides, down to 90 degrees, and then we stand up to the top. So we're doing 12 reps total of these ones as well, trying to keep the weights in this front-loaded position, but not resting them on our chest. We want to make sure as well that we're pushing the knees out, very actively having those knees pushed out over the pinky toes. And this one we're going to feel in the quads, and we'll get the glutes going. This one's kind of a full leg exercise here. But if you're wanting to think about anything, we're thinking about the front of the thighs squeezing us up to the top. 12 reps. Yes. Okay. So this one here, we are doing it again, and we have 3 more sets. So we got to get to work. We're going to fully limit our rest, so we are not taking any rest in between these rounds. Once you're finished those sumo squats, we are going right back into our single deadlift to reverse lunge. Again, we're doing 6 and 6. So trying to go right into this one. Of course, you need to grab a little bit of water, sort of regroup, but just remember that there's no prescribed rest. So we're going to try our very best to get going into our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th set. We've already done 1, so we have 3 more that we have to get through. Okay, let's do it. We got the pop-ups coming up. Google Chrome. All right, there we go. So on to our 2nd set. And again, my friends, this is, in my eye, the last part of our low body strength. So we'll finish up strong here. And know that this burning leg feeling, this is it. 3 more sets. There you are. Okay, so we'll get this on both sides and make sure that we are trying to balance between these reps. So trying to not touch this foot down through that deadlift. We come up, trying to keep the balance going, as I struggle with mine. And then the lunge. Of course, we have to touch the foot down on the lunge, but we still want to try to sort of channel that skater squat that we had at the very beginning, where we're sort of pulling ourselves up. Yes. And then we have those straight leg deadlifts. So again, we're trying to hinge the hips back. Make sure that we're tucking in our chin so we have that neutral spine. We're not looking forward. We don't want that bend in the neck. We want to bring it down. And thinking about the hamstrings, the back of the legs, doing the work through all of our 12 reps on those ones there. And finishing off this circuit, we have our sumo front-loaded squats that we are working through. So these ones we want to essentially sit right down into that squat. Your arms, elbows sort of sit in between your legs. And trying our very best to hit that 90 degrees every rep. And unless you have a reason why you shouldn't, but you know yourself. Pre-existing knee injuries, probably talk to me about it. But most of us, it's very important that we are sitting all the way down through our 12 reps. 2 more rounds. Yes. So we'll get those done, and then we'll go right into our third set. And yes, the whole idea here about the limiting of the rest is that we are sort of making these sets more challenging as we go through them. So if you're feeling like those weights that are the same are feeling heavier, that is what we're going for. Okay. So 6 and 6. Awesome. Third set. Not sure what that was. All right. So same thing here. We're following a very normal tempo for all of these. This first exercise, we probably don't need to think about much of anything to make it more challenging. But that second one and that third one, again, these ones are very strong movements. Our straight leg deadlift and our sumo squats. So if you are wanting to get a little bit more out of your set, if you finished it and you weren't really feeling that sort of hamstring work that I was talking about, then again, what we're going to think about is slowing the heck down on this next set. So taking more time under tension to get that stretching feeling. So we want to make sure the knees are soft. We're not completely locked out. We have the soft knee, but we're pushing the hips back to create that stretch. And when we get down here, we want to squeeze up to the top. And that's a very active, conscious feeling that you need to make happen for yourself. The same thing, we can just go up and down, you know, go through the motions, but that's not why we're here. We are here to get the most out of these exercises and sessions, which means maybe you have to sort of slow it down a bit, think about it a bit more. Same thing with the sumos. We take more time to lower ourselves down, be more active in pushing out our knees to the sides. You probably already know. You're gonna feel this a lot more, and in turn, get more out of this little strength circuit that we are doing, we are finishing up with. So we'll get through this set. We have one more round, and then we are hanging out on the floor, but not really just hanging out. We got some work to do down there for our core, our abs. Yes, you've already knew that. Okay. So we'll get through this set. As you guys finish that part up, I am going to set our timer here for our last part. Perfect. Okay. And, well, awesome. So we have about 3 minutes to finish up our final round. So we'll get through these sumos, and then again, we will jump right into our last set. Let's do about 3, maybe even 4, if we need it, minutes until we should be starting, pressing start on that there timer, because our last part is going to take us 12 minutes total to get through. So we need to leave that amount of time left in our session to get this last bit of work in. All right. That being said, do not rush. Okay, we're going to take our sweet time in this last part through our final round of this circuit. Then back into our first one, combo move, trying to channel that balance, that single leg work, so that we get the most out of it. 6 and 6. There you go. Okay. Had to give my nephew the. All right, so let's get this last part done. Our last round. And finishing just as strong as we started that first set. You remember that first one, like, you know, you were feeling so good and ambitious. We'll try to take our time and do everything the same way we did it then, and not rushing through, as that tends to want to happen on our last round. We're tired, we're done, but not quite yet. We have this final set to go through. Okay, so we'll take about 2 more minutes here to get this done. And finishing up those single legs, 2 lunges, going right into these straight leg deadlifts. So again, trying to hustle between each exercise. There you go. All right, 12 reps. Maybe going a little bit slower on this last set. Specifically on the way down. We're going to keep the bottom and the way up nice and quick, efficient, that same 2 seconds. If you want to take a bit more time lowering down each rep, you're at 12. And then the sumo squats. That's the last. Just kidding, they are going to be the most burning for last. Our final one are 12 reps total. Okay, let's get it. Okay, so last round, I'm going to give you about 60 more seconds to finish this up before we are going to move on to our very last part, which all we need is our mat and our body. So I'm actually going to take my chair, bench, whatever you were using, move it out of the way so that we have a bit more space down on the floor. We are also going to be finished with our bands and our weights. So if you want to put them in their home, now would be the time to do that because we are done with them. All right, so our last and final part we're going to work through again is all on a timer, which is always nice. No counting involved. And we are going to be hanging out on the floor the whole dang time. So you can come on down, get comfortable before we get uncomfortable doing this core work. Starting off with our first exercise, which is going to be a half side plank with a leg lift. So right away, we're getting the core going with this half side plank. And we're also going to be getting some sneaky hip work going in here as well. We're going to be working with 45 seconds on the clock. We're going to have 15 seconds in between. And there are 2 other movements that we're going to do with this one. I'll show you those movements within that 15 seconds after we get both sides done. 3 sets total, my friends, and then we are done this session for today. So come on down here, get set up here with your forearm bent down, making sure your shoulder is stacked right on top of your elbow. We want the side of the leg down, whole body is straight, lifting up, and here we go. Lifting up the leg, trying to have that other arm reaching up, or you can have it on your hip, whatever floats your boat. And we're going to try to work this leg lifting up and down for this entire 45 seconds. What's very important for this one is that the hips are being pushed forward. We don't want the hips back behind us. It's actually a lot harder than it looks, which you're probably feeling right now. So if you need to make it easier, we can bend in that leg like so. And if it's still too hard, you can put your toes together and still try to work with that opening of the leg up and down, or simply just hold. But we're going to try our best to not touch our knees together. So staying here, breathing through this, 5 more seconds. You got this. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Did we forget how hard those were? Maybe. All right, we're going to switch sides. So you can literally flip over. I'm going to kind of switch so I can still look at ya. Starting our second side in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So we're trying to do the same thing over here. Whether that was you lifting up your leg, keeping your arm up, maybe you bent it in, maybe you touched your toes down or just held. Whatever it was, we are going to stay here strong for 30 more seconds. Now keep in mind, this second side is going to be a lot harder than the first because we're essentially working both sides of our hips and our core on both sides of these. So no matter what you do, the second side is always going to feel a lot harder than the first side. So we're going to try to just breathe through that. Okay, hold it here. 10 seconds left. Focus on our breath. counting down, whatever you need to do. 3, 2, 1, and time. So good. Okay. The next one, we're going to sit up. So you can come on up here, join me sitting up, and then walking your hips back. So we're sitting on the bottom of our sit bones, not on the back of our tailbone. This makes a big difference for this one here, which is going to be our V up. So we want to lift up our legs, open up our palms, lower, and then pull ourselves up. Now, the lower you go, the harder, but we want to make sure we're in control so that we don't just flop down onto the floor. So we'll work through this one again, trying to keep our chest up, working with a range that we can control, and that's going to be individual to you. So whether that's just this little or maybe you're going all the way down and touching your low back down, but it's important that you don't just collapse onto the floor. And so if you're feeling like that's happening or you can't really get back up, don't go so low, okay? Try to keep your chest up and breathe. Every time you go down, we're inhaling, and then we exhale as we come up. Rest. Okay, we have one more. And the last one, we're going to stay right here. Oh, yes. The last one we're right here. Arms, palms are going to face down this time. And we're going to be working with these fast arms. Here we go. So the faster, the more powerful your arms are, the more challenged your core is going to be to maintain this position. Now, of course, we could go slow, or we could just stop and hold this position here. But again, it's important we're not rounding forwards. We want to keep our chest up. At any point, if you feel like you need to, you can slightly graze the heels on the floor. You can keep going with the arms, or again, you can simply take the arms out and hold that V hold or boat pose if you're a yoga person. 10 seconds left. I know most of us aren't, but you might recognize that name. So we'll hold this here. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, so that was our first round. Okay, we have 2 more sets. So we're going back into that half side plank with leg lifts. Pretty much right away, starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So we're trying to, once again, work with this hold, with that leg lift if we can, or again, simply just holding, bending, whatever we need to do to maintain this position for 30 more seconds. Yes, this one is a complete burner of the hips. So although we're focusing on the core in that side plank, we're going to feel a lot of work happening in the sides of the hips. These ones are little muscles that we're tapping into on the sides of the hips. So that's why we're feeling that they are probably really worked, because we don't work them that often, hence why we're doing this, so we get them stronger. And rest. Okay, flip over, other side. Yes, I know, it's a saving grace. We only have to do this 3 times. This one and one more after this. 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Lifting up, trying to do the exact same thing on the second side, no matter how you feel, which I know, because I've already warned you, it's going to feel a lot more than the first side. But we'll try to just stay strong, breathe, okay, do whatever you need to do to get through this. Again, whether that's bringing in the leg, you can always put it back out, right? But I don't want you to flop down on the floor, not yet, not until you hear that final beep into our 15 seconds of rest. But for the next 15 seconds right now, because that's what you have left in our 45, we are holding it. Let's go. Okay, and doing whatever you got to do to get through this. Thinking about what you're feeling, thinking about what you're doing after this. 3, 2, 1, and rest. All right, sit on up here. We got these V-hold variations. So again, this first one, the V up, we're moving with that up and down motion. And that starts right now. Let's get it. So again, working with a range that you can control. And you can always switch it, right? You can make it bigger, you can make it less, you can have smaller or bigger movements, whatever you need to do to hold and to not fall down. The whole time too, we want to actively be pulling and drawing our belly button into our spine, trying to keep the work on the core, although we might feel a little bit of tension brewing in our lower back. We've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again right now because some of us really might be feeling that, especially now, this last little bit here, and in this next one that we're going to do as well. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, don't go anywhere though. So if you are starting to feel, again, that tension in your low back, that happens, that sort of tight feeling that kind of gets worse and worse as we hold. Anytime we are using a muscle more than we're used to using it, which right now we're using your core a lot, the opposing muscles, which we're going back into our hold here. So we're using our core, which means our low back also has to work. And when this is too worked and we have way too much stress on it than we're used to, that's when we start to really feel those opposing muscles, in this case our low back, kick in and start to help out our core. So most of the time, that feeling is a working feeling. It's that sort of dull sensation that builds and gets gradually worse as we hold. And that's not a bad thing. If you can hold it, if you can work through it, then do it. It's that sharp, pinchy pain, which hopefully none of you are feeling. And in which case, if you were feeling, you would stop or really modify by either putting your hands or heels down on the floor. That's what we're trying to avoid. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Hopefully I distracted you there. All right, we have one more set, my friends, and then we are done for the day. So we're going back to the first one, our half side plank with the leg lift. You got this, okay? I know what you're thinking right now. It's gonna be really hard. It will, but you can do this. Get up there, timer started, so have you. Let's do this, okay? Again, something that you can maintain, even if it's just that half side plank with, again, the knees separated. Because remember, I said that was important on this one. So if you need to, if anything, you can touch your feet together, but we're going to try to keep our knees apart. Try to keep our hips being pushed forward so that they're not bending back behind us. You got this. 15 seconds left. As much as you think you don't, you do. You just have to breathe through it, push through it, and know that you will be done after this one. And of course, the other side, of course. 3, 2, time. All right, flip over, other side, switching sides. This is it, the last set of this half side plank. I know this is like probably the hardest thing we've done all day, mostly just because it's at the end here. Here we go, lifting up, and we've already done all this other crazy stuff for our legs and our hips before this, so they're tired. But that is why, again, it's more important that you try your best to hold this, breathe through it, do whatever you did on the first side. That's what's most important right now. So whether you went up, went down, had that leg extended or bent in, you have 20 more seconds here to do the same thing on the side. As much as you probably don't want to. You're going to feel way better if you push through this and if you essentially force yourself to do this challenging, burning stuff. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, that one is done, which is probably what you've been waiting to hear the whole time. We just have these last 2 that we're going to work through. So again, our palms up, V-ups, where we're working up and down, starting right now. So again, we'll make sure that have our hips walked back, which makes it a lot more manageable to get into a lower position without sort of rolling back onto the back. Okay, 30 seconds left on this one. And trying to keep our chest up, shoulders away from the ears so that we're not losing our neck. Tends to happen when we get tired, AKA right now. 15 seconds left. Okay, so again, even if you just have a little range, that's okay. Even if you're just holding it, that's okay too. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, but don't go anywhere because you already know we have this final one with the arms, which is surprisingly hard. I mean, it looks so simple, so easy, and then you do it, and yeah, you're gonna find out. All right, let's go. So lifting up the legs, straight arms, palms down, and we're trying to have fast. The bigger, the more powerful those arms, and the more challenged we're going to be in our core. So on the flip side, if you feel like you're not going to make it, smaller arms, okay, a little bit slower, or maybe just holding. 20 seconds left. You're more than halfway there. We're literally almost done the session. So again, we'll finish strong so that we can feel good, accomplished, knowing that we gave it all we got, which comes down right now, this last 10 seconds, not giving up on ourselves. Yes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time. We are done. All right. Hopefully you feel good. If you don't, you will once we're finished a couple of these stretches. We're going to go through them together. First one, I want you to flip over onto your hands and knees, get some of these cat-cows going. So we're rounding or arching the back rather, looking up to the ceiling, getting that nice opening stretch through the core, which you're probably feeling a lot right now. And then we want to round our back, trying to transition with an exhale. So I take an inhale, and then I exhale, and then inhale, and then exhale. We're going to do that 3 to 5 times. So we'll do 3 together. If you want to make it 5, then you can stay a little longer and do 5 instead of 3. You can even go up to 10 if you want to kind of stretch it out, open it up a bit more. But this is the first one. The second one that we're going to do is for our hip flexors. So once we're finished that one there, we're going to take this half kneeling position here. And we're just going to, again, do one set of these stretches together because they're quite important to do after all of that hip and leg work that we did together. So this half kneeling position, again, if your mat's really flimsy, you can fold up the mat or put a towel underneath your kneecap. And we should feel this nice opening stretch through the hip, probably into the quad, because we're feeling those legs, maybe even again into the core a little bit. But it's important here that we're working with that pelvic tilt. So we're tilting our pelvis under. If you want to increase that stretch, we can lift our arm up. And again, I am holding on so that I don't have to think about balance. Time and a place for that, and now is not the time or the place. We want to focus on that stretch only. So we're going to hang out here for about 10 more seconds. And again, feel free, my friends, to come back and do another set of this if you are feeling kind of tight in the hips or tight in the low back. This stretch is awesome, and it's actually better if you hold it for longer. So right now we're just doing a 30-second hold, which you can switch sides with me now. But again, if you want to get a bit more benefit out of the stretch, then you can put in a little bit more time right after this session's over, another 5 or 10 minutes, and come back and complete another 2, maybe even 3 sets of this hold, even upward to 60 seconds on each side. So same thing, we'll switch and stretch that other hip out, holding this here with that pelvic tilt and taking those deep breaths. If we need to, you can switch around and again have that arm extending. I don't need to extend my arm because I feel a lot of stretch in the hip, but again, everyone's body is different. There's one more stretch that I want you to do today, and it is for your booty, your glutes. We did so much work back there. This last one's on our back. We're bending up the knee, the heel, placing that heel on the opposite knee, and then pulling in that leg, getting that nice opening stretch through the side of the hip. So once again, we're going to hold this just here for 30 seconds on each side, but the same rules apply with this one. If you do want to open up your hips a little bit more, then you can come back and hold this for even longer, maybe even 60 seconds on each side, and complete 2 or even 3 more sets of this rather than just the one that we're doing here together. So we'll hold this here. Again, these stretches should not be painful. We just want to feel tension. So you're probably feeling quite tight after all that strength work that we did, and the hip work. So we'll take a couple more deep breaths. Okay, and then we'll switch sides. We'll just even it out over on this other side here with a nice 30-second hold. So again, we're keeping it very short and sweet with our stretches at the end here, but you want to make some time for yourself to stretch in a little bit more. You know that it's going to help you overall just feel a little looser than these shorter ones that we're doing here. You can also feel free to incorporate any other stretches that are going to feel good that you want to do right now on top of these sort of basic hip ones that we're doing here. But you, my friends, are done with me. So hopefully you feel good. That was heck of a workout that we went through today. Thanks so much for joining me in the Zoom room, David Tanis. It's always nice having you in here. And I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow for upper body. Okay, have a great rest of your day, or your day, because we're just starting, and I will see you next time. And my replay watchers, if you're still watching this, drop a comment, because I always love reading them. Although I know I do not respond to them, but I see them all, and I love them. So if you feel good, if you don't feel good, whatever you're feeling right now, drop a comment below so that I know that you did this session, and I will catch you next time. Okay, have a great day.